Where do we advertise as full service sex workers in Australia? Let's start with the main one that I use. This one is Scarlet Blue, and it's kind of your high end of the worker directories in Australia. It is the most aesthetically pleasing to look at if you jump on there and have a look at it now. In order to advertise on here, you need to have professional photos or professional quality photos. So some of the girls are self-taken, but they are sort of the top photo quality. This platform charges us $132 a month. There are also upgrades like being shown on another state. So for example, right now I have an ad up in Perth and Melbourne because I'm going to be there shortly. That cost me more money, but just my basic being available in Brisbane is just the $132 per month. Using your available now for short notice costs nothing extra, but boosting your ad to the top of the page is about $15. For me, this platform is the most bang for my buck at my price point. And yeah, this is the one that I won't switch off while I'm working. Now, the next one I want to talk about is called Escorts and Babes, and I would say this platform probably gets more clicks. A lot of guys use this website in order to book workers. However, for me, it doesn't really seem to be worth it a lot of the time to have my ad on here, unless I'm touring through somewhere that's, like Newcastle, somewhere that's a little bit smaller. They seem to use these platforms more. I feel that at my price point, it's very hard for me to get work on that platform. But if you are pricing yourself more around the average, this will probably be a great website for you. I pay $60 per week, and if I want to show that I am available now for short notice, that costs additional money. I think it's around about the equivalent of $5 or $10. And to boost my ad to the top of the page is $30. This is good for short notice. I've got maybe 10 bookings short notice from this platform in my career. I don't always have my ad on there because it's just not worth it for me unless I'm doing short notice work. This website doesn't have the best reputation with clients in the same way that generally Scarlet does. Obviously, there are scams everywhere. But what happens, unfortunately, a fair bit with Escorts and Babes is the model gets verified and it's never actually her doing the work. So guys are showing up, they're seeing this ad thinking, wow, $180 an hour, what a bargain, look at her, she's a 10, showing up and it's somebody twice her age. So yeah, just keep that in mind. A lot of the guys don't really trust paying deposits and things that come through that website, and I just find it just a bit of a pain in my ass, to be honest. Now, the third one I want to talk about, I have an ad up at the moment. It's called IB Society. Now, back when they first launched, it was free to sign up, and I had an ad on there for quite a while before I did pay for their premium package, which is $99 a month. Now, back then, I did not get any work from this, and I felt that it was a waste of money. However, I've decided to give them a second chance, and I think it's just this month now. It's the first month I've paid for it again. And I think I've had 3 bookings come through Ivy. It seems to be hitting a younger demographic, so we're talking like 18 to 25 seems to be the inquiries I'm getting coming through, but they're legitimate, paid deposits, have come and seen me. So I am kind of impressed by this. I'm guessing that they've invested money into their own marketing of the site, but yeah, I would definitely renew that again and see if maybe this was a once off for me. But $99, I think you get a certain amount of available nows, and you can get a spotlight so you can move yourself to the top as well. I feel like this is really worth it too. There are a few other websites. One I have used previously called Real Babes. I think I paid for a month's subscription on there and did not get any serious inquiries or serious work. However, it was just a 1-month trial, so maybe this platform does really work for other workers. I'm not dissing it. It just doesn't come up as high in Google search results. So you want to have a look at that sort of thing too if you're spending that kind of money. If I remember right, I paid somewhere between $40 and $80 for the month. Now, some that I've never used myself, there is one called Dakota Dice, which a lot of workers are on. I have never used it. I have no idea what the pricing is, and it's a lot smaller than these other ones I've listed in terms of traffic and knowledge in the general public. There is also a new one called Rolodex, which I've just started seeing pop up on Instagram. However, it doesn't look like they have many workers listed under them at the moment. I'm hoping I haven't forgotten any, but off the top of my head, this is all the legitimate, reputable websites. You need to be very careful as a client because sometimes you'll end up on websites like, say, for example, Secret Hostess, which is a scam website. Please do not ever book somebody through that. They have ads of me that are not my ads, and they're not linked to my number, and I have no idea what they're writing on those ads. So you need to be very, very careful. If you're a newbie to this and you're really scared about getting scammed and things, try to do a little bit of searching up that escort's name and see if you can find anything through Google. See if she has social media. I would recommend, especially when you're new to this and you're worried about getting scammed, going for Scarlett or Ivy over escorts and babes, because I feel like there is less chance of you getting scammed through those websites. However, it does still happen. Anyway, this video was not meant to be me talking about scams, so I hope that's been helpful to somebody. And yeah, I would really recommend, when you're in a position to be able to do so, if you're a worker yourself, investing in professional quality photos to be able to get on Scarlet Blue, because I have got some of the loveliest clients and like biggest spenders through this platform. For me, it's been super beneficial, but we're all different in the way that we want to market ourselves, and yeah, hope that helped. I want to start a series where I essentially try to help with resources to help women doing full service sex work like myself transition from a brothel or establishment or agency into working independently. There's going to be a lot to this, and I can't release every single video at once in order to, benefit with the algorithm of TikTok. So please be patient. I know some of it's going to seem very basic, some of it might be useful. There's just going to be everything I can think of slapped into this series. If you haven't seen me before, my name is Lillith Lodge. I've been working independently for just shy of 2 years now. I've toured all over Australia. I have toured to Singapore, and I've also worked in establishments. I've worked in one in Brisbane, and I've worked at one at the Gold Coast and one in Tamworth. This is by no means meant to encourage women who are not currently doing the work to start doing the work. This is intended to women working in those places I've listed. With that said, let's get into the actual information now. We've got it all laid out. We're going to start at the basics, okay? Your clients need to be able to contact you, so let's talk about that. Whether these are clients found through the advertising platforms that I'm going to do a separate video on, or they are your existing broth regulars that you've decided to sneaky steal, I'm not going to judge you. I don't care where you find them. Let's start with email, because it's the easiest, free to set up. Set up a professional sounding email using your work name, not your personal name, and not something silly like Freddy Fish 2.0. Make it your work name at hotmail.com. Like mine is lillithlodge@hotmail.com. Totally free to set up. You'll need this on your ads because some people will choose to contact you via email. I very rarely get serious inquiries by email, but a lot of like corporate men will choose this method, and it's free for you to set up. So that's what I want you to do as your first step. Now, the second thing obviously isn't free to set up. This is having a second phone with a second SIM that is going to be your work phone. The reason why we do not use our personal phones for work is due to trying to keep our identity safe and secret, and that's something that I'll go into a little bit later in this video. I understand that buying this second phone and setting up a SIM card for that is an expense, and I know not everyone right now is in a position to be able to do that. But this is something that I want you to sort of save for, set aside, do an extra shift for. This is really important for your safety further down the line. Now, my work phone is actually my old phone. It was my shitty one before this current one, and I still had it laying around. I found it in a cupboard. I just slapped a case on it, and I went and got a SIM. Now, let's talk a little bit about the phone plans really briefly. Putting a SIM in your second phone is another expense, and not everyone is in a position to be able to afford $60 a month or whatever in order to have that phone operating. What I did when I started was I found a provider who had, it was a $300 per year, a yearly phone membership contract, SIM, whatever you'd call it, and that had unlimited talk and text and unlimited internet gigabytes, which you don't really need on the work phone. But that was the most financially efficient decision for me. The phone was free to me. I guess probably $100 to buy a secondhand phone in that sort of condition, and the SIM card. And this means that I'm able to separate work and private phone. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, oh, well, why don't you just use WhatsApp? And I want to touch on that a little bit. I have a WhatsApp set up, and I only allow clients to contact me that way if they are an international client, because they can't contact my personal work phone. And I get international clients because of my TikTok, because of my content. I've toured to Singapore, I needed it for that, etc., right? But if you are just working here in Australia, I don't recommend using WhatsApp for a few reasons. Firstly, the majority of people who will contact you that way are complete time wasters. But more importantly, and what I really want to enforce here, I wouldn't say enforce, draw attention to here, is that if something happens to you in a booking and it was all booked through WhatsApp, it's untraceable, okay? They're not going to be able to work out who did that to you as easily as if the booking was made through your phone number via SMS. This is because in Australia, all of your phone numbers are linked to a legal ID, right? So if you end up murdered, if you end up, for heaven forbid, they will be able to work out who that person was and trace it all back with that SMS, that mobile number. WhatsApp doesn't allow that to happen. On the note of that, I wasn't planning to have that in this video, that's just come to my mind. A client of mine is in IT and has explained to me that I needed to turn my iMessage off in my settings on my work phone because he said that that is untraceable. Now, I haven't looked into this myself, however, I trust this man. I've seen him many times and I don't think he's bullshitting me on that, so I would also recommend you doing that. Now that we've got all of that out of the way, I feel overwhelmed by the amount of information I need to put in this video. I want to talk a little bit about your identity and how important it is to keep who you are a secret from these clients. Now, I'm sure you guys, a lot of you guys that this is intended to be seen by, understand that, but it's often in my comments, you know, why can't you use your real name? This is because of stalkers. And I've had one firsthand who got hold of my information and harassed me, and it was horrific. And this is something that I want you guys to try to avoid. It doesn't hurt to come up with an alias, make it something that you're comfortable with. Over time, you get a lot more comfortable with these names. That said, if you are using your personal phone, you likely already have Pay ID and these things set up to your personal phone. I've definitely searched up workers' numbers before, and I've seen like old Facebook accounts. I've seen, you know, maybe a marketplace group or something with that number attached, and I can work out that worker's real name. You don't want to have this history attached to your phone, which you will if you use your personal phone. This is why you need a second phone. You need a work phone that is completely, you know, there is nothing on Google searchable under that number besides your full service ads. You don't want a client being able to type your number into Pay ID and seeing your full legal name. It's just not smart. I know some workers will use Pay ID as a payment method, and generally they'll make it so it's just like their first initial and showing their whole last name, especially if their last name is common. You know, I won't get into that too much, but essentially I'm advising that it is smartest to go and get a second phone in order to keep your identity secret. It also helps further down the track with work-life balance, having separate phones. If at some point you decide to leave the industry, you have a better chance of all of this being left behind you if you're using an alias as opposed to your real name, okay? So I think that's probably enough for this first video. I hope we have the phones and the contacting down packed. And I hope you guys understand the importance, good God, I can't speak, of using an alias. Let's talk about deposits, ID, and references. This video forms part of my series where I am trying to provide resources and information to those full service workers currently working in brothels or establishments or agencies to transition into working privately for themselves. Now, at this point in the series, we're going to assume that you know how to screen a client. Now, this is not information that I can post on the internet, and as much as I wish I could, it would just allow clients who already follow me access to that information. Them having access to what we do on our end means that they're able to work out how to get around those security measures. It would not just put me at risk, but our entire community would be at risk by me publicizing that information in this manner. There are resources and government run organizations that you can go to that will teach you how to do these things, as well as other women within the industry who advertise themselves as mentors. They can teach you how to screen. So at this point, we're going to assume that you have screened a client. We're going to start talking about deposits, deposit methods, okay? So I always recommend that you get a deposit. Now, I know not everyone is in the same position within the industry, and some locations and some price points, it is more and more difficult to get a deposit out of a client, okay? And we're going to get into some other options that we have if a deposit isn't working. Generally, at my price point, someone refusing to pay a deposit is a time waster, but I understand that, especially when I've toured through places like Newcastle, it's hard to get deposits. Tasmania, when I've tried to tour there, was hard to get deposits. There are some places where deposits are just not the normal, and they are very skeptical. Especially if you are blurring your faces in your ads, you get it even worse. So let's talk about if you're able to get a deposit. And this doesn't have to be a massive deposit. For me, I take a $200 deposit, but I know workers who take $50. I know workers who take a $10 deposit. it's just the deposit, the principle of the deposit. So even if it's only $10, it's still showing you that that person is a serious customer and not just a time waster. You can take these deposits a few different ways. My number one recommendation is Beam It. Now, this will take you about 15 minutes to set up. When you set it up, it'll use your real legal information like your passport. However, the clients do not see any of that. They only see your username, which is what you generate. Mine has my working name, and they can't access any of my private details that way. And this is instant. There is no way for them to reverse it. And if I have to refund a deposit because I'm cancelling on them, I can do it really fast through this app. Now, second method will be the obvious bank transfer. When a client bank transfers, sorry, I'm stumbling on my words, bank transfers you a deposit, you'll be able to see their full legal name. They will not be able to see your legal name unless you are sending them that money back for a refund, which is a tricky thing. This will be generally instant if they have OSCO. However, some bank accounts are really weird and it might take 24 to 48 hours. This can be tricky if you're doing short notice work. I have a copy and paste message saved in my phone that explains that some banks will, if they're not OSCO, it will take 24 to 48 hours, and I'm not going to see a client until that money is physically cleared into my bank account. Another method is cash deposit through an ATM, which is something Commonwealth Bank does. They can simply go to an ATM with my bank details and deposit the cash into my account. This is great for guys who like to argue and complain that, you know, they don't want their wife seeing the transfer, or that it's a business account and they don't want them knowing where that money is going. They can take cash to an ATM with my information and deposit those funds directly into my bank account instantly. Now, outside of these, I know some workers will take, I believe it's pronounced Prezi or Prezi gift cards as deposits. This is not something that I do. However, I do use their platform in order to receive gifts and things through UPay. So I know they are completely reliable. Once you have that email saying that, you know, your gift card is here and you click to add your gift card to your wallet, it is there and it cannot be reversed. So if this is something that you want to consider, I've used the platform and it is legitimate. Now, it's very hard because I know that the deposit is, you know, a great sign that you're going to be safe, a great sign that a client is reliable. But I know that the position that I sit with my privilege within the industry is not the same as everybody else. And there are girls that are, you know, in a position where they are unable to get a deposit. Maybe their face is blurred, maybe they work in a location, maybe they're at a price point where deposits are just a tricky thing. So I have a couple of other options here in order for you to, you know, prove that a client is legitimate. One of those will be getting their photo ID. Now, obviously, some clients are going to be hesitant about sending this, but it is another option if they're not willing to pay a deposit. It does not guarantee that they are really going to show up or that they are 100% serious, but you are kind of reducing the odds of having your time wasted by having this. I personally collect them if I'm going to a private residence for an out call. If I haven't seen the client for an in call or at a hotel in the first place, then I get these. Great for your safety to know if something goes wrong, you know exactly who that client is. And I know workers who require these as an essential for any booking. They have to give their photo ID. Personally, for me, the only time I will take them is if it is a private residence out call. A lot of high profile, well-known clients, people who have a lot at stake will not be willing to send IDs, but it is always a valid other option if you cannot get a deposit. Or if you are very scared, you're very new and you just want to know who you're going to see, I think it's a reasonable thing to ask for. Now let's talk about something else that I don't see spoken about a lot. However, this is kind of common practice. In my experience, I've done many of them. These are called references. Now, this is where you essentially contact a previous provider that they have seen, and they tell you that they've really seen them, that they were nice, that they behaved, etc., right? I've done probably 50 of these in my time for different clients, and I have no issue doing them. I think it's a really great concept. However, not all providers are open to doing a reference. Some of them may charge the client for their time doing the reference, and that's totally their prerogative of how they want to run their business. But I think it is a way that us as a community of girls can keep each other safe, okay? Now, essentially, you can say, you know, you're not willing to pay a deposit, you're not willing to send me ID. Do you have a reference from the last provider that you saw that I could contact and discuss with her, you know, how your booking went or that you were legitimate? I take these as a second option for the outcalls to private residences. I'll also take one of these instead of photo ID, and I will look up that provider and see how legitimate they look. you guys will know what I mean as another full service worker if their ad looks legitimate or not, or if it looks like something this guy has just set up himself, okay? And then from there, I will go and contact that worker, say, hey, you know, my name is Lillith Lodge. I'm a worker in Brisbane. I have a client here by the name of Ben. His number is, you know, blah, blah, blah. He said that he's previously seen you. Would you mind giving me a reference? You know, is he reliable? You know, was he well behaved? Did you have any issues within that booking? I have never once had to give a bad reference, and I have never received a bad reference about a client. I think it's a really cool concept. I know there's a lot of girls probably that watch my content that have previously had to give me a reference for one of their clients. Now, generally the industry standard would be, you know, just acknowledging that yes, you did see the client and yes, he did behave. I personally, sometimes, I don't know if I should be, but if, you know, the client had a particularly large specimen, I might mention that in the reference and just say, just make sure you've got Supermax or something like that, just so that, you know, that's a little bit, give the girls a little bit of a heads up. Some workers don't have all the sizes, and I think it's kind of a nice little extra to be like, I really did see him, and then it proves that I really did see him. Obviously with these you want to hold weight on how legitimate the provider seems, but I do think this is another great option if you're really struggling to get deposits in your location. Obviously, I'm not saying, you know, the deposit is the number one. This is what we want a deposit, but in order to, you know, come up with some other solutions, this is another one I would recommend. Now, this is tricky if they're doing short notice because, you know, the likelihood of that other worker being near her phone and being able to reply to you that quick is unlikely. Generally, you know, need about 24, 48 hours to get a reference back, but it's another option. And I don't see these spoken about a lot, so I'm glad we've managed to get that into a video. I'm sorry if I seem a little bit all over the place. There's just so much information and my little ADHD brain is running at 100 miles an hour, but I hope something was useful in this. I hope I haven't missed anything. Something I might briefly touch on is some guys will pretend to buy you something from something like a YouPay wish list, pretend they've bought you something, you don't receive any sort of notification, and it's very risky to, you know, consider that a deposit. I would never consider a gift as a deposit. If you want to, that's okay, but please make sure that it's legitimately paid for and cleared before you're accepting it. If a deposit hasn't cleared for you, but you've in that moment decided you're still going to see the client anyway and he arrives, make sure that you are receiving the full funds owing, because unless that money is in your bank account, it's probably not coming. And some guys will try to pretend they've sent you the $200 deposit, but haven't actually, and then they're just getting $200 off the service. Don't let me record any more. I'm at maximum length for this one. I hope that has been useful to someone. This video is going to be on doing a market analysis or comparing the market as a full service sex worker. Now, this series is intended to be a resource for workers already doing full service sex work, but in broccolis or establishments or broths or agencies that want to transition into working privately and keeping 100% of their profits. This is probably going to seem a little bit of an odd video, but this is something that I genuinely did when I started in the industry, and I think it's really important that we all do it, and it costs us nothing to do. It does cost us a little bit of time. So what I want you guys to do is go on your local area, for me, Brisbane, go on all of these different advertising platforms, look at the girls that are already on there and what they are charging and what they look like. Read their ads, you know, see the way they've marketed themselves. Have they gone more GFE? Have they gone more extreme? Have they gone more PSE? How is it written? The wording, are they talking really dirty in their ad? Are they, you know, very girl next door in their ad? What services are they doing in these different things? How much are they charging? Do they do 15 minutes or is their minimum booking 2 hours? Look at all of this stuff. Do you notice that after 2 hours they start to you know, get a reduction in their hourly rate because they want to encourage longer bookings? Or do you notice that it's just $1,000 an hour every single hour because, you know, they don't really care for the extended bookings? Have a look at all of this stuff. Look at the way they look, the quality of the photos. That's what I want you guys focusing on. Find women who you feel look similar-ish to you, maybe similar body type, maybe they're also tattooed, maybe, you know, they're blonde as well, and look at what they're charging and think, okay, I look similar to this girl, I can probably charge around about this much. I am not by any means saying that you cannot charge whatever you want. If you want to go on there and put on an ad for $2,000 an hour, girl, you do it, I will cheer you on. But we are talking as like a likely to get the most bookings is doing a market analysis and putting yourself in the position that you should be in within the market. Pricing yourself competitively. I guess that's what we should say. Something I also want you to keep in mind, which is not something that I even thought about when I set my prices, which are still the same as they've always been, is looking at these girls following. I didn't even think about that at the time. I saw girls that I thought looked similar-ish to me at, you know, that price point, and I thought, if they're charging it, so can I. I want $900 an hour, okay? And sure, but what I didn't take into consideration is that some of these girls have massive followings or have been doing this for 10 years. So they have a heap of regular clients already, and over time they have slowly increased their rates. Let's use an example. Someone on here, Kayla East. So she is a beautiful, curvy BBL girl, absolutely stunning. She works at the Gold Coast. Now, her hourly rate, base rate, is $1,500 an hour. You may look similar to Kayla East, right? You may be that beautiful. You may have the big BBL, okay? But realistically, she's making that much money because she has a massive following, and she has been in the industry making content for a very, very long time. And a lot of people know who she is and are willing to pay that because they know her, right? She's invested all this time and energy for years into her social media, all right? And that is what is allowing her to charge that much money, okay? And I'm not saying you cannot do it too, but it's going to take a lot of work to also make that kind of money. The thing to consider is the location. So yes, it might be like the Brisbane tab and you're seeing someone like myself located right near the city, right? But you're more Ipswich, doing in-call and out-call from Ipswich. You may want to consider something like that in your pricing too, because the people around that area, you know, it may be more like a $600 an hour as opposed to $700 in the city. So just kind of think about it sensibly as to what would be competitive in that area and up against the goals that you've got against. I don't really like that term, but you know what I mean. With the booking prices, like extended bookings and things like that, if you are the type of worker who really struggles to do more than an hour, you just kind of want them in and out, you struggle to make conversation, you struggle with that GFE kind of vibe, structure yourself so it's the same rate every hour. You don't have to reduce the rates for extended bookings. If you're more like myself who kind of prefers that type of thing, the more intimate, getting to know a client, a lot of talking mixed in with the spicy stuff, maybe stack your prices the same sort of way I have, where it gets cheaper the more they book, or doing discounted dinner date rates or overnight rates or whatever the case is. If you invest the time in looking up your market, all of this will make sense. It's just going to take some time. At the end of the day, we have to have a business mindset about this. And I know it's boring. I know it's not fun, but it has to be done. Let's talk about in-calls, out-calls, renting, hotels, all of that sort of thing in this video as a full service sex worker. This video is going to form part of a series I'm making of resources to try to help full service workers already doing the same work as me, but working in broths, establishments, agencies, that kind of thing, that are trying to transition into working for themselves independently and keeping 100% of their profits. Now, what I have to say in this video and the way that I run these things is considered a little bit controversial within the industry. So this is just my opinion. I'm going to do my best to, explain why I've made the decisions that I have with this. Let's start at the start. When I started out, I was out call only because I actually lived in a caravan. Shocking as it is now, I lived in a caravan. I obviously couldn't see clients there. That would be incredibly unprofessional at my rates, and also unsafe. So, I started as out call only, right? And I would advise most private workers, you start this way too. This is because most of you that are working in these establishments, you likely live in share houses, or if you live alone, it's probably quite far outside of the city, in something like a standalone house that would be more unsafe to see a client. So this is what I recommend that you start with, as out call only, just as I did. With that said, majority of the work I now get is in call only. I very rarely do out calls. So you are kind of cutting your own bag by not having an in-call space. But this is such a big investment to offer in-calls the way that I do. And I understand that it's sort of a further down the line thing in your business, right? Because it's a business at the end of the day. But the next step from offering out call only, once you're comfortable with that, is I would say doing what one of my close friends does, where her ad lists that she does in-call and out call, but those in-calls are like pre-booked. And when she has, let's say, 2 hours or an hour and a half worth of pre-bookings for that day, she'll go and book a hotel. And it doesn't have to be a super flashy one. Some of them are $200 a night, some are $300 a night. Sometimes she does go all out, and she will book that in. And when she's finished those pre-bookings, or in between those pre-bookings, she will have her available now on and try to pick up more short notice work. So essentially, she'll try to make as much as she can while she has that accommodation, which is super, super smart. But she's not just going and booking 3 days worth of hotels with nothing lined up, risking all that investment that she's put in and potentially getting no bookings. There are absolutely girls who do this, and for some people this works, especially if you're at lower price points, like very competitively priced in your market, you're likely to get more work, right? But I personally wouldn't recommend going and booking accommodation with no guaranteed income for those days. Especially if you are in a, early in your business financial position where $900 worth of accommodation is a lot of money to you and you could make nothing, So that's just my opinion on that. I know lots of workers will go and just book the accom, but we're not going to go into that bit anymore. Otherwise, I will be rambling. Let's talk about longevity and like saving money. Hotels are expensive. Let's say you have $900 to do 3 nights a week. Let's just say that's how much you're spending, right, on hotels. When in the long run, it would make more sense to do something more like what I do, which is seen as controversial within the industry. I live and work from the place where I see clients. Now, with that said, a lot of people immediately will say that's super unsafe. And yes, I guess it is risky. I'm not going to come on here and lie. However, my building is super secure. There are thousands of people who live here, and I mean thousands. There is, security cameras in the lobby. There are security staff on at all times. There is a camera that faces my front door. There is a security pass to get in my lobby, to get up to my floor, and a key to get in my door. I feel very safe working here. I have never had a client get up inside. I have never had a client waiting around outside. There's just so much traffic in this area that you would just never bump into the client. With that said, a lot of workers will say never work and live from home. And I totally get that for safety reasons. And that is your choice as a worker to see what you would feel comfortable with. But I think if you are going to live and work from home like I've chosen to do, you need to look at getting into an apartment complex that is as safe as this one is. If you're in a position where you've decided or you have to work from home and it's not as safe as something like this, absolutely, please go and get something like a Ring doorbell. I know that that's still, $350 or whatever, but that may save your ass one day, and it'll mean that you're able to see if someone's hanging around outside of your door, if clients are showing up when you're not home, like expecting bookings, things like that. It'll also, if something goes wrong, you have proof that that client was coming into your property, okay? So that's something else I would recommend if that's your situation and that's the route you've chosen to go. Another thing that quite a lot of workers do after multiple years in the industry when they have steady income is, they have their own private residence and they choose to rent another property, generally just an apartment like mine. And so they live and sleep and everything, and their pets and all that are at their house, but they go to work and they rent this second property. Now, that's going to work out cheaper for them, than a hotel. Sorry, I just had to collect my thoughts for a second. So much talking tonight. It works out cheaper than getting a hotel, but it's really only a viable option once your business is established, once you have, you've got to have tax returns to be able to get these kind of places. And that's another thing I want you guys to think about. When you're in survival, I know that it is very hard to, go and report your taxes and things like that. And I'm not telling you that you need to. I'm not going to boss people around and shame workers that are in a position that they just can't afford to do that. However, for the longevity of your business, it makes sense to declare everything you make from the start, because you want to be able to rent property. You want to be able to buy property, girl. You want to do that down the line. So just do the right thing when you can. Do the right thing, declare your income, because it will bite you in the ass if you don't further down the track. Declaring this income means that you're able to get a rental, like one of my friends does, where she lives at home and she rents a property, and that way her pets aren't there if, none of her valuables are there, all of that kind of thing, right? Or you could do what I do. Now, I live in this beautiful 2-bedroom luxury apartment, and I'm able to do that because of my tax returns and claiming my income and proving to the landlord and to the government that, I'm able to afford this kind of thing. Something else I would advise when you have the funds to do so is investing in like what do you call them, a security box, a safety deposit box, so that, you know, any cash from previous bookings, valuables, things like designer items or anything like that that you are scared of clients stealing while they are here, that you can put them aside, because I know that that's going to be a concern. I have never had, in 2 years, I've had hundreds of clients come to my private residence. I've never had somebody try to steal anything, besides one man tried to steal his cash back, which I had stupidly left on the counter. That's a story for another day. Don't do that. Hide it while they're in the shower. Yeah. However, I also acknowledge that the price point that I am at and the position of privilege means that I am a lot less likely to experience these things than a lot of other workers. So it is something to take really seriously. And you know, for $1,000 for a really good, sturdy safety deposit box, like, you know, that would be worth it for you for the longevity of your business. But at the end of the day, all of these things are further down the track, and it's not something you need to overwhelm yourself with straight away. If you're doing outcalls only, perfect place to start. Save up that money and invest back into your business and your safety and your security. It is really, really difficult as a sex worker to get approved for rentals. So, you know, really, as soon as you can, start declaring your income, pay your taxes on it, because you can't do anything. It doesn't matter if you're making $1 million a year. If you're not declaring it, you can't do anything with it, because you can't deposit it and, you know, you can't get a loan on it. So think about this stuff seriously. You need that declared to be able to, you know, rent something like this. Like where I am right now, yes, the cats are in here, but this is my workroom. This is just for work, and the wardrobes there are full of just work outfits. It's great for my mental health. It's great for my clients. It's great for short notice, because I am just next door and I'm able to get ready and get in here, and this place is already set up. Again, you need to think about it and think what is right for you. There are a lot of girls in this industry who are mortified at the thought of me living and working from home, and they think it's incredibly unsafe. And that's something for you to consider too, because, you know, things do happen, okay? And if you've got pets, you know, someone could turn on them. So just keep that in mind. But I'm hoping something in this was useful to somebody. Don't feel embarrassed to start as outcall only. That's where I started. I definitely wasn't going to see clients in my caravan. Let's talk about photos used for your advertising as a full service sex worker. This video forms part of my little series I've done of resources that was intended to help workers already doing full service sex work, but working for a broccoli, an establishment, an agency, anything like that, transitioning to working completely independently and keeping 100% of their profits. This video, I'm going to argue, is the most important in this series, and this is the one that I really, really want people to focus on. Start with the basics. Men are visual creatures. They are visual creatures. That doesn't make them bad. They're just visual creatures. And this is why your photos are so important in order to get bookings. If you jump on E&B right now and you have a look through, you're going to see what I mean. We have blurry photos. We have unclear photos. We have badly lit photos. We have really terrible outfits, which I'm going to do a different video on outfits and things. But you can see, go on and have a look, analyze it. You can see the heavily filtered photos. So filtered that they don't even look like a real person, which nobody's going to pay a deposit if you don't even look like a real human. Now, obviously, to advertise on a platform like Scarlet Blue, you have to have professional photos. And I am well aware that, you know, having professional photos like mine is a complete privilege. It reflects my financial position, and not everybody, especially when you're starting out, you're not in a position to invest in your business like that. I get it 100%. I know you can't afford a $1,000 photographer and a $600-700 accommodation like my photo shoot was. I totally get that, but there are ways that you can improve your photos without spending any money or very much money at all. If you jump on E&B, you will find girls that have self-taken photos that are really good quality. And you know, you can jump on people's Instagrams, like mine, for instance. Most of my stuff is self-taken, and I have no fancy lights in most of those. It's just making sure that your photo is clear, that you look presentable, that it's not foggy, blurry. Make sure your lighting is good. Maybe you don't have a ring light like this. You guys are currently set up with, you know, a big beauty ring light, which was a great investment for my business. But when you're not in a position to buy things like that, get a well-lit room, stand near a window, you know what I mean? Try everything, try different angles, posing your body different ways. Do everything you can, put a lot of energy and effort into taking those photos. Go through other girls' photos, find poses, copy those poses, see what looks good with your body, what looks flattering for your body. Maybe you have a friend that you work at the agency with that also wants to transfer, or at the Broccoli with that wants to transfer to private, and you guys could, get together one day and take photos of each other. That would be a great option. If you can't do that, if you're very alone, you don't have anyone who can help with these things, buy a $25 tripod from Kmart, go and invest in that so that at least you can take these photos. I cannot stress how important your photos are for your business. Like, this is the most important thing. And when you're starting out, yes, self-take them, do what you can, do the best you can. When you're in a position where you can invest in your photos, do so, okay? My first photo shoot when I first started, I was living in the caravan, but I did save up in order to be able to do that shoot. I believe at the time, and this was 2 years ago now, it was $750 or $800 for 10 completely finished edited photos that I picked. And this lady had her actual studio, so I didn't have to rent, an Airbnb or anything like that. And for me at that time, it was an investment, but it was reasonable. It wasn't, 2 times that which I now spend on my shoots. When you're in a position like I now am and you can invest $2,000 in a shoot, absolutely do it. You will make back every one of those dollars when you're in the position to, okay? But it takes growth, and I'm not expecting workers starting out to go and just stick $2,000 on a shoot, okay? But you can still take pretty photos yourself. You absolutely can. You're more than capable of getting your lighting right, getting your angles right. Spend a whole day where your only focus is taking good photos for your ads. And when you have lots of good photos, let's say maybe you got 25 good photos that day or 50 good photos that day, save some of them for your social media. Don't take them all in the same outfit. Do your best you can. Take some uncovered if you're comfortable with that. Take some in one outfit, in another. Take some of your shoes. I don't know. It's how you want to market yourself. For example, one of my photos is of my feet on my ad because I do a lot of feet bookings and I like those. I want to market to those guys. Use a business brain about the way you're marketing yourself. If you're marketing yourself as girl next door, maybe incorporate that into your photos. If you're marketing yourself as really extreme PSE, then take your photos that way to reflect that type of marketing style. Just please invest effort into those photos, because that is going to change the amount of bookings that you get. You can absolutely blur your face if that's what you're comfortable with. And there are ways you can blur your face that looks quite pretty in photos as well. There's a lot of girls who will just they change the angle of their face, or they'll just blur the bottom half of their face or the top half, whatever, in order to hide their identity, but still show the photos that, they look pretty that way. If you are trying to hide your identity and you're tattooed like myself, there are apps that you can use. You've got to invest in this software, but they will be able to remove your tattoos from your body in order to, put up these pretty photos on your ads. And that's definitely something that you can look at doing if you are like myself, but in a position where you don't want to show your face or have anyone identify you. I really hope this has come across the way that I want it to. I'm a little bit exhausted because I've filmed so many of these, but this is, guys, your photos. Please focus on the photos, okay? I am telling you, this is going to make so much goddamn difference. Let's talk about using social media to your benefit as a full-service sex worker. This video is going to form part of a series that I have been filming, essentially just trying to offer resources to girls already doing full-service sex work, but in an establishment, a Broccoli, a broth, or working for an agency, who want to make the transition to working for themselves independently like I do now, and keeping 100% of their profits. Now, likely you already know the importance of social media these days with a lot of things. Most businesses rely on social media for their marketing and advertising, right? And we're really no different. I know a lot of long-term veteran workers, will openly post on Twitter and stuff about how they despise us influencer sex workers and that kind of thing, and how we're ruining the industry and how they never had to do any of this. But unfortunately, the market is evolving, and in order to make the most money, we have to evolve with it, right? The same as any other business, any other industry, okay? If you were selling Coke, they had to evolve with the times too. And I mean cans of Coke. I didn't mean Coke as in Coke, but I mean it works for both. A lot of clients will rely on social media, things like your Twitter or Instagram, in order to make sure you are real before paying you a deposit. So social media is a great way to build trust with your client base. Even if you're not doing what I do and posting videos like this, it's important for them to know you're real and to see pictures that aren't necessarily on your ad and things like that. These are things that they look for before they're willing to pay a deposit, whether that deposit is $10, $50, $200. There are girls who charge $1,000 deposits, 50% of the booking. Think of it as a way to build trust with your clients and also to remarket to clients who've seen you. I have clients who follow my social media who I might not have seen in a year, but I might post something that sparks their interest or ends up on the top of their feed that day, and they think, man, I should see Lil again, or I just got my tax return, maybe I should book an hour with Lil. You get what I mean? It's important for your business. You do not by any means have to go all out like me, who's been posting on TikTok every single day for 2 years now. Since I started, I actually was posting before I started doing full service work. At the time, I was just dancing. It is a lot of work to put into social media to the extent I do, and I definitely wouldn't recommend that everyone needs to do that, especially if you're in a position where you're just trying to get by. But I think it's important to set up a Twitter and an Instagram and, have your ad photos, but maybe also have an extra 10 photos you've taken on different days that are exclusive to your social media. Maybe 5 are exclusive to Instagram, 5 exclusive to Twitter. This helps build trust with your clients, and it also means they can see extra photos. It's exciting to them. Maybe one of those photos is like what gets them over the line to actually book you. I understand not all workers are in a position where they can be face out, and you can absolutely, I've seen many workers use Twitter and Instagram with their faces blurred, or not necessarily blurred, but they're modeling, posing in positions where part of their face is obstructed. I understand that to workers who've been doing this a long time, it can be, confusing for them, and I understand the irritation and the uproar on Twitter that I see all the time at workers like myself for, posting the content that we do and making it a social, like an influencer, sex worker kind of thing. But I think now it's an important part of our business. And I think we have to embrace it and we have to move with those times. If you're wanting to go a step up from just doing Twitter and Instagram, maybe you've got a bit of time to invest. Maybe you want to start doing your spicy page, so you want to be able to market that. I'd jump on TikTok. It doesn't have to be talking videos like what I do. I know that talking to a camera is scary and uncomfortable for a lot of people, and it was to me when I started. Trust me, I look back on my videos and I'm like, you look so fucking awkward, Lil. But over time it develops, and if you don't want to do talking videos, do some thirst traps. It still shows that you're real. You know what I mean? It's still building trust with clients. This can be a great way to also show a little bit more of your personality, your hobbies. These things make these clients see that you're a real person, and a lot of the time they're very attracted to that. They want to see us as real people. They want to see what makes us tick. They care about our hobbies and things, especially if they're seeing us long term. So all round benefit to your business, and I would totally recommend doing it, and it is free. It is a great time investment. It doesn't cost you anything. This video is going to be about supplies, things you might need, stocking and setting up your in-call. As a full service worker, this series to be resources for workers currently in the industry working under an agency or in an establishment, transition to working privately. You can tell I've been filming so many videos back to back because I can't even talk. We'll start with the basics. So obviously you guys are all well aware, already doing this line of work, that you need things like moisturizer, massage oils, lube, baby wipes, tissues, all that kind of thing. You know this because you're already doing the work, right? However, I would recommend getting something like this to have everything accessible to you while you're doing your thing. So this is a Kmart tea tray. I think it cost me like $11 or something, and I have all the different sizes displayed on there, easy for me to grab, okay? Now, in terms of your supplies, I find that buying things in bulk saves me so much money in the long term. I know when you're starting out, money's probably going to be tight and you probably don't have hundreds of dollars to stock up on DOMs and things, but when you can, you will save so much money doing that. I buy all of mine in bulk, 166 I think they are, packs online. You can also get them at the adult store, some adult stores, not all of them. And I do believe that there are some organizations that give you them for free when you're starting out, like sex work organizations. Obviously, you'll know about toys. You guys don't need me to go over that stuff. Please make sure you are cleaning your toys and you have toy cleaner and you're using them safely. Now, something I want to touch on in this video is what I call my out-call bag. Now, this stays packed at all times, and this is my supplies that I can throw in a bag when I have an out-call, because we all know things are short notice sometimes you are just in a rush. Now, in here, I have an assortment of every single different size I could possibly need. I do have a pair of scissors. Now, this is because sometimes I do have to cut them open. If you're doing that, please make sure you pull the dom down before you cut so you're not cutting the dom itself. I have 2 different lubes in here and moisturizer for if I need it. Now, this stays packed at all times, and if I have an out call, I take this with me. So I would recommend setting up something like this to save you time and energy. Now, let's talk about a little bit further down the line when you're in your own in-call space and supplies that I have here that aren't necessarily for doing the deed. Especially if you are charging at the top point of your market, I think customer service and having these things is really helpful. The first thing that I have is a stocked bar. I mean, it's not fully stocked right now, there's a few empty, but I do have this. I understand not all workers are comfortable with drinking with clients or drinking on the job. Me personally, I do, so I have all of these here. Now, outside of the booze out there, I also keep this fully stocked. Now, these are all not just for me, but also for clients. I keep on hand sugar and non-sugar because everyone is different. Energy drinks, which I'm telling you right now, if you see a lot of young clients, the way to their heart is giving them energy drinks. And if they say no at the start of the booking, they normally want one to take with them when they go. So I've got that. I've got water, and behind that I have sparkling water. And I also have canned beverages. So we've got non-alcoholic beer, normal beer, White Claws. I think there's fruity beers back here. By no means is this essential when you're first starting out, but I do think in the long term, when you're making a lot of money, this kind of thing can make all the difference to clients. Keep in mind, some of my clients come from the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Toowoomba to see me, so they've driven quite a way. Even if they're local, sometimes they're just dehydrated, sometimes they're nervous and they want an excuse to sort of take a moment before they head into the room. I just think it's great to be able to offer that. And it honestly costs me next to nothing. I mean, if you think of how much I'm making an hour, and at most something is like $6 for a drink, it's really not massively cutting into my profits. And a lot of the clients say no, a lot of the clients don't want anything. Now, just walk back into my workroom. I feel like a lot of this is standard to you guys, the DOMs, all that kind of thing. I do have a big ring light, which if you're going to be taking your own photos and things like that, I would highly recommend. But I'm not going to get sidetracked on that. I'm going to show you some essentials I have stocked in my in-call space in the bathroom. Keep in mind, some of these may not be really essential for clients, but I do also use this if anyone comes and stays with me. So we'll start here. Anything in here is always washed, and I keep this constantly ready to go in case I need it on short notice. Bath mat, 2 completely clean towels sitting here. In here I have like a loofah, shower gel, face wash, because oftentimes my makeup will end up on people's faces and they've got to go home afterwards and someone might catch them, so I would recommend that as well. I also have shampoo and conditioner, which that is getting blurry, has never been used, but I do think that's kind of important to have in here just in case somebody needs it. You just never know, someone could end up with massage oil in their hair or something and they need to wash it before they go home. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's cost me what, $10 to have that there. Why hello. Now here on the counter, I'm going to show you guys what I have set up. We'll start with the absolute basic and necessity, mouthwash. We all know this is an essential. I also have these here. Often my clients will grab these. They're just little earbuds, itchy ears. I don't know. They like having them there. Deodorant, that is a women's deodorant. It's one that I have an allergic reaction to because I'm allergic to ammonia, but I do have it here for the clients. It doesn't smell particularly feminine, but when I restock this, I will get a man's one. A little face towel that's never been used since I moved in here, but it's there anyway. I also have this thing of moisturizer. Some people have a routine of moisturizing as soon as they get out of a shower, and I never want to disturb my neurodivergence routine, so I have this here if they need it. On that kind of topic, these were more for if people stay here, but not necessarily for clients, but I have a scrub, a toner, and a face mask here as well. I don't expect any of them to use the face mask, but I would say at some point I will have somebody who will use the toner because they have a certain routine and they've had to wash their face. This here is just a little mouthwash. This is Floss Picks. Sometimes we will eat here in my bookings, order food in, and this way they can floss. I also have these ones I stole from somewhere I was staying on tour. They are toothbrushes inside. So I have 2 of those, but I also have 2 other ones in the cabinet above, and toothpaste. These don't really get used very often. This is more for if someone traveled quite a way to see me. For example, I had someone come from Toowoomba the other day, so they use those. Or maybe someone who's here for a very extended booking, like 5 hours, 6 hours, something like that. All in all, I'm really happy with what I have on hand. It's taken time to build up my income and things. I know this stuff isn't cheap when you add it all together, but it has been great for my business. And I feel like this space looks very put together and pretty much anything someone needs is here. Before I end this video, this is the size box of baby wipes I buy because I go through so many of them. Baby wipes are my best friend. I could not do my job without them. Let's talk about clothing and outfits for work as a full service sex worker. This video is forming part of my series, which was intended to be resources to girls working in establishments or for an agency already doing full service work that are wanting to transition into working privately. Pink wig is just for a little bit of fun today. I haven't even put on a wig cap or anything like that. We're just enjoying it because I've worked really hard on this series and I only have 2 videos left to do. Anyway, I'm rambling now. This video is going to be a little bit different and I'm sure it's not going to be useful for a lot of workers, but I know when I started working privately, I was like, what are the girls wearing to these bookings? Like, what do they wear? Because obviously in an establishment, you generally go and greet them in the lingerie, right? And I wanted to look professional and I wanted to be professional and I wanted to seem that I was worth my rates. It's a bit funny me talking about fashion and like looking good for the job while I'm here with my $10 wig, but you know, let's excuse that. When I looked around at girls' ads, I often saw like professional photos of them wearing really expensive shoes like this. Like these are $1,425 pair of shoes. And I thought, is this what these high-end girls are all wearing to bookings? Do I need things like this? A client's gonna notice that I don't actually come from money or have money because I don't have nice designer items. And while I do now, I genuinely did not have these kind of things when I started. And to be quite honest with you, I don't really wear these kind of things to bookings very often because obviously there's a fear of them being stolen. So this would be something I'd more wear to a very special occasion or like with a regular of mine. I want to do like budget friendly outfit ideas. Like you're just coming out of the broth, you spent all of your money on your advertising and your photos and you've got maybe like $150 and you want to go out and get some outfits or you're going to revamp stuff in your wardrobe as it is. While we're on the topic of shoes anyway, let's talk about shoes. Now, when you're starting out, they do not need to be very expensive shoes. These are my most favorite and most comfortable black high heels. These are Pleaser brand, which is the same brand who does like the dancer heels, but they're just not dancer heels. I think these brand new are about $120, but you do not need to buy this exact pair. Just find something that you can comfortably walk from the lobby up to the room in, that you're not going to stumble in, practice, get used to it, that kind of thing. Something like this is perfect. It looks classy with something like a nice dress. And yeah, you can find things like this in op shops, you can find them on eBay, you can find them on Depop. It doesn't have to be expensive, but what I'm going to say is in terms of clothing, a nice pair of black heels is what I would recommend. We're going with black because black looks classy, black looks put together, and a lot of guys will comment to me all the time, oh, the black dress and black heels, like they love that. Now this next pair of shoes I've got to show is a bit grubby. These I wear for like if it's a daytime booking or it's a regular of mine, I'm just going down to get them from the lobby. If there's going to be a lot of walking and I don't want to be in heels, these are not classy at all, but just something like this, you know, flats with some bedazzle on it. They look fine with outfits. They look great with sundresses, which we're going to get to in a second. I think these were $20 brand new. These cheap, very cheap. You do not need to go out and spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on all these different outfits. You can just, a pair of nice flats, tidy flats, and a pair of black heels. I feel like this video is going to seem so strange to people, but this is stuff I genuinely was concerned about when I started working privately. The next thing I want to talk about is outfits. I'm just going to say go for dresses. 99% of the time, I just wear a dress. It's easier. I've seen girls wear beautiful little like two-piece outfits and things like that, but we're talking about when we're starting out. So for daytime bookings, something like, you know, you've got to go out with them or you're just picking them up from the lobby at like 2 p.m. I wear stuff like this. Now, this is from Showpo. It was $100, but I know I could find something like this in an op shop for probably $20, right? Just make sure that it fits your figure really flatteringly, and, you know, looks good and is a color that suits your skin tone and everything like that. The clients love sundresses, and these are cheap as fuck. I know from past experience as a caravan girl, op shops are infiltrated with this kind of stuff. Okay, moving on. Next piece of clothing. It doesn't need to be these exact ones. This is just, we're giving examples. This is my favorite black dress that I have for work. Now, this goes just past my knees. It does look quite classy, and it really hugs my figure. It looks super flattering. I love this. This is one of my favorite things. I got this from TK Maxx, and I think I paid $20 for this about a year ago. This looks great with, I've thrown them on the ground now, with heels. All I need to do is throw this on, go downstairs with those heels on, and I look like I am worth $1,000 an hour. Obviously not wearing this $10 wig. Now, I would opt for black over something like white, but if you're somewhere where it's colder, like say Melbourne or something more like this may be more suitable for your climate. However, I work in Brisbane and it's generally pretty warm here. So I would say absolute basics, pair of flats, pair of black heels, a black dress that fits you well, and a sundress, okay? Now, over time, you'll find some of your more high-end clients may ask for things like corporate wear, because, you know, it may be a setting where they need you to look like you're just going to a meeting. And so I have an item like this. This is from Showpo's executive line, but you could find something like this in an op shop too. It doesn't need to be brand new. We can go secondhand. And this is just like a black corporate dress, like an office dress. But it also looks really beautiful at the same time. It hugs my figure in a way that looks professional. This is an office outfit, and so therefore I blend in. In terms of bags, just something like a tote bag, or I think mine sort of goes across and sits at the side, decent size that can fit your supplies in it. I really don't think the clients are looking at your bag, so I wouldn't even think too much about that. I think having something that is flattering on your figure, like a dress like that, is going to be the most important thing. Now, as for lingerie, this is obviously expensive if you're getting into things like Honey Birdette. I think almost everything that I own at this point is Honey Birdette, but that's not essential. I have seen women wear Shein outfits to the strip club and make thousands of dollars in a night wearing those outfits. If you can find something that is flattering on your figure, go for that. One thing I would note about your lingerie in particular is making sure things aren't faded, discolored. It can look kind of gross, and at the end of the day, you know, this is a business and we want to be presentable, so it doesn't need to be expensive. You can find stuff on Shein, you can go to Bras and Things, you can go to Honey Birdette, wherever your stuff is from. If you're already working in an establishment, you likely already have these things anyway. I feel so weird doing this video about like what to dress like while I look like a child. Anyway, another thing I probably want to add in here, I've had quite a few requests for gym wear. So further down the line, or if you've already got it, a flattering gym set, they can be long or shorts, and a crop top. Guys seem to love this, and they've requested a fair bit if you're doing outfit requests, so I would absolutely recommend having that, even if it's just one, for when these bookings come up. Further down the line, when you're established and you can go shopping for these kinds of things, I love to get a lot of my outfits from Showpo and White Fox as well. I find a lot of nice stuff on there for work. Someone who I do often look to for work outfit inspo, and she probably has no idea I'm going to mention her in this. Her username on Instagram is Kayla Lee. She is a full service worker at the Gold Coast, I think she's based, and she has some stunning outfits for work. I am always watching her stories to see what she's going to wear next. But all of these things, you know, it costs money, and I totally get that. When you're starting out, it is the basics. So just go black heels, pair of, you know, put together flats, sundress, black dress. Just make sure that the clothing looks good on your body and that the shapes are flattering to your body. That's the most important thing. I think that's all I have for this video. I'm just kind of looking at myself with this wig. Like, don't know why I've decided to wear this for this video, but anyway, I hope that's helped somebody. Making your life easier as a sex worker and streamlining your admin process. This video is the last video I have to film in a series that was intended to help women who are already doing full service work in an establishment or working under an agency transition to working privately where they can keep 100% of their profits. The series was never intended to encourage women into the industry. This was a resource for women already doing my work. Now, once you start working privately, from the second you have those ads up, you're probably going to realize that a lot of the work, and the worst part of the work, is the admin, and this is the phone stuff. This is still something that I struggle with to this day in terms of managing burnout because of that phone and those notifications and everything. You'll have it calling and dinging at all hours of the day. What I'm compiling in this video is just intended to try to help things that I have learned along the way. First thing, number one, would be put as much information as you possibly can on your ad to limit the amount of back and forth questions with clients. You know, if you're getting a lot of questions saying, do you do bear? Put on your ad, no bear services. Put on your ad, no peach action. Whatever it is that you're getting a lot of questions about, put it on there so that it is super clear. This will limit your back and forth with clients. Let's say overnight bookings, you want to put on there that you have a certain amount of sleep time, certain amount of social time. All of that sort of information is great for on your ad. The more that's on there, the less questions you will have to answer. And if those questions come up with clients, you can redirect them back to the ad without you putting in all that effort to answer these things. Another thing that helps me massively when using my work phone is having copy and paste pre-filled out information in my notes. So in my notes section, I have one that is all my deposit information, and I've written every single method, how much the deposit is. If it's a tour deposit, it's different than a home deposit, and I have it all, and I simply copy and paste it to that client. Now, I also have one that is for my services, what's included in what price and what is extras. In some states, you can put all of that on your ad, which is absolutely great. Here in Queensland, that's set to change August 1st, but right now, we're not able to, so it's important for me to have a copy and paste list of what's included in a 30-minute, what's included in an hour, what costs extra, filming, all that kind of thing, right? For me personally, I also put in this copy and paste that I do not take rough and submissive bookings because this is a hard boundary for me, and I think it's clear to communicate with that with somebody before they actually go and pay me a deposit and come and see me. Over time, you'll find what copy and paste works best for you. You may not need a services list. You may be working in, Sydney or somewhere where you can just have that written on your ad. Now, because I live and work from home, and when I'm in Brisbane, I'm always working from the same place, which is my apartment, I have a copy and paste of my address, and it's quite confusing where I live, so I have a little explanation of how to find it, what it's close to, etc. I also have a copy and paste of parking for when they say, is there parking there? Or if they mention they're driving, I will send them through a copy and paste of the best places to park. Now, you may not need all these things that I've listed, but having those copy and pastes saves you so much time and energy. You can have just finished a booking and you've got 20 messages to get back to and 10 of them look serious, and you can just copy and paste to answer their questions, and it will save your sanity in the long run. It's so worth it. Another little thing I want to add in here is turning the phone on silent. This is something I need to get better at, and something I have been trying to get myself to do when I am not working or when I'm overwhelmed or when I need a timeout, just turning it on silent so that I don't have to deal with it. Especially coming from a situation where someone else was doing the phones to now you having to do it, you're probably going to find it a little bit overwhelming. I've been doing this for 2 years and the phone is still the worst fucking part of my job. Briefly, while we're on the topic of the phone, if you don't want to talk to clients in between bookings, you do not have to. They will try to force it. This is an issue I still have. Set your boundaries firm. Don't be afraid to lose a client in order to keep your sanity if it's really that bad. If you don't want to have to answer phone calls like me, I don't want to do calls, I just have them immediately silenced so they don't even ring through. It just comes up as like a text notification that somebody tried to call. Now, on iPhones, there is a focus option in your settings, and you can set this to focus driving. Now, it will automatically send a message which you get to type up yourself to contacts in your phone. This is a great method if you are trying to take some time off, if you've gone on holidays and maybe your clients don't even read your ad and they're just messaging you like, Lil, hey, I want to see you today for 3 hours, and haven't even checked that your ad's down. It's really great for that kind of thing. As far as I know, it'll only send it to existing contacts and not new clients contacting you. But I think this is really useful when you're running the admin side of your business. So it can automated send them a message back, something like, hey darling, I'm currently on holidays until the 25th. I will get back to you when I return. Thank you. Something like that, right? It's just going to save you so much energy. And it's going to keep your clients happy because they're in the loop and they know what's going on and they don't think you're ignoring them. I think that is all that I have for this video. This hair is starting to irritate me a little bit now. But I hope this has helped somebody. This is the final video in my series. I'm hoping I don't accidentally post them out of order. It's been a lot of effort to put all this together, so I just really hope that this has been helpful to somebody. I know a lot of it probably seems common sense, but you just never know. These are all things I worried about when I started. And yeah, I just want to try to help if I can. So yes, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'm gonna go take this wig off now.